Good morning, friends. Here we are. Another day, another Dharma. I've moved spot, as you can see. It's springtime, and this is a place I sort of started doing Sangha Live in here, and did it all through the pandemic from here. And this is sort of this is my own sort of meditation spot in there, usually in this sort of little kind of cave. And still hut sort of outside in the Moulin. And oops, don't know if sound was a bit low until now, but anyway, here we are. The birds have been singing rather loudly this morning. The frogs were singing in the earlier morning. We'll see if they join us. Anyway, here we are. Welcome, wherever you are and however you are. And I said yesterday, we were talking this week, right? And just giving a few reflections before meditating together. And the theme this week is human nature, Buddha nature. And so we're just sort of contrasting elements of what we could call human nature, which is seeing what, on the one hand, is completely natural for a human, right? Not wrong. I think sometimes in Dharma teachings, or at least the way we understand them or the way we practice, we can end up sort of pathologizing our experience, like desire, for example. As if there's elements that are wrong or bad or need to be gotten rid of. And as soon as we have a language of transformation, some idea of, I need to transform. And actually, might be more helpful, I need to enter into contact with, I need to listen to, I need to welcome and explore our experience. So that's where transformation comes from, not by some kind of attempt to manage or control or get rid of areas of our experience that we find difficult or confusing or painful. So most essentially, the fruition of Dharma practice is when we really see how human nature and Buddha nature are the same. And we don't feel any conflict between that which is part of a human life, which is the nature of a human body, right? Aging, sickness, and death. That which is part of a human mind. Thoughts, concepts, constructions, memories, ideas, imaginations, associations. That which is part of a human heart. Love and pain, sorrow, loss, fear. It's like integrating so that our relationship to the life of this human life is a more fluid one, a more awake one, Buddha awake. So I said yesterday that I might give a few thoughts this morning on this contrast, so human nature, Buddha nature, emotional depth, emotional freedom. I see sometimes we celebrate emotional depth. We say, that's deep. That particular expression I hear, I was listening to a podcast recently, I can't remember which podcast, and somebody said something, and then the other one said, that's really deep. And I thought, no, it's not. It's not deep. It's just complicated. It's just intense. It's just charged with emotional drama. That doesn't make something deep. It just makes it complicated and drama infused and intense. And it's kind of a shame if we substitute that, right, for real depth. So I might ask you, what do you take as emotional depth? Some of us might feel like, oh, I just don't have much emotional depth. Don't feel much. For some of us, we tend to be afraid of emotional intensity because it can be painful. Sadness, loss, fear, jealousy, anxiety. Oh my goodness, don't want to feel that. Some of us get caught in the drama, oh, me and my life and what's going on and all of that. Real emotional depth, I would say, and actually what I'm calling emotional freedom. That sense that there's room for the heart, there's room for whatever arises in the heart. There's an undefended relationship to the emotional life, but without dramatizing, without grasping onto, without jumping onto the story of what's fueling the emotion and riding it off into the sunset or into the battle. So we often think, oh, but emotional depth, emotional intensity, that's where love is. Some of us, that's where we get our sense of love. And then in that sense, we often find then that our relationships, romantic or sexual relationships, partner relationships, family relationships, friendship relationships, are charged with what we call depth, but again, are charged with drama. And what we call love is sort of fueled, but it's not very peaceful, right? It's fueled with detail and drama and who's doing what and what that love means and where it's coming from and if there's enough of it or etc. It's cold. It's cold. It's hard. It's intense. Yeah, exhausting. In the tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha talks about the heart. It's particularly in terms of the Brahma Viharas, right? The Brahma Viharas are these 4 particular vast expressions of love, but there's not drama. Right? They're not really about me and my, and they're not really about you and your. They're not really about us and our. They're just like a vast sense of the capacity when the heart is unconstrained by me and my dramas. It's that sense that it says the natural condition of a wide open heart is a sort of friendliness, love that feels friendly towards what? Towards experience, towards whoever or whatever appears. Oh, friendly. And then the heart that's open, it has a naturally loving relationship towards pain. Right? Sounds odd, but what's a loving relationship to pain? Oh, it's the willingness to tend, to care, to respond, and to reach out. Yeah. And then a free heart, and the way it responds to beauty. Right? Oh, the capacity to delight, to enjoy, to be grateful, to be in wonder. Right? Where the heart can actually be nourished by beauty without grasping onto me having or getting something or keeping something. Just that deep capacity to love, to enjoy, to take pleasure in, to be grateful for, to wonder at the beauty of the world. So those are opposites, right? Compassion, the capacity to be loving in the face of pain, and then the capacity to be loving in the face of beauty. Right? But they're both aspects of genuine freedom of heart, ease of heart, spaciousness of heart. And then that's the 4th one, spaciousness of heart. That capacity, right? Just to have a heart as wide as the world, a heart wherein experience can happen and can be met and can be felt and can be tended to, but without it becoming such a big deal. Just the space. Oh yes, it's normal. That spaciousness is normal. Joys and sorrows, pleasures and pains, gain and loss, praise and blame, what I like and what I don't like. It's like, oh yeah. That can be a loving relationship then with that sense of the totality, the vicissitudes, the comings and goings that we've been speaking about a lot this week. Wide open heart. And of course there's a depth there, but the depth is not so much the depth of feeling. It's not the depth of drama. It's not the depth that feels like it's got a lot of self in it. Right? It's a depth that feels predominantly spacious. Spacious. It's a quality of love, like we touched on yesterday, that doesn't feel like it's a love that's given or a love that's received, but rather a love that permeates the field of experience. A love that doesn't need to be gotten or held on to. A love that actually doesn't need to be given or offered. It's just naturally given. In the face of that which is painful, natural responsiveness, caring, responding. In the face of beauty, our natural responsiveness to delight, to enjoy. So the difference between what we could call emotional depth in the usual sense and emotional freedom is, the second is peaceful, though, that sense that the heart can be at peace. We can still respond to pain, we can still take delight in that which is beautiful, but there's some sense that there's a kind of a vastness that permeates the heart. That's why the Buddha calls these four conditions Brahma Viharas, divine abidings. They're not really emotional states. Right? Emotional states tend to be ones that seem to belong to the self. I feel upset, I feel angry, I feel happy, I feel excited, whatever. I feel bored. And then actually, these real heart spaces are those that can make room for the emotional states without being swept into them. Yeah. So friends, it's nice to evoke the heart with you. And the way in to a free heart, right, is not really by aiming for any of those, the Brahma Viharas, those particular states. The way into a free heart is just by tending to what's here. Tending to what's here. Then that is metta. Friendliness. And then when that which is painful arises, going to it. Instead of running away from it, tending to it. And then that is karuna, compassion. And then when there's a sort of sense of appreciation or beauty or wonder, just allowing it, delighting in it, opening to it, rather than grasping at it. And then that is mudita, delight, appreciation, joy. And in the midst of all that, when we realize that it's all just sort of coming and going by itself, then relaxing around it, embracing it, allowing it all. And then that is upekkha, equanimity, spaciousness of heart. All right, enough talking about the heart. Let's enter into and abide as the heart of experience. Let's be here together at the heart of experience. So please take your seat for meditation. As you just feel this body sitting, and as you gently just gather your attention, and you just sense into the feel of body sitting, body breathing. See if you can enter into this experience with an attention that is friendly, an attention that is gentle. Loving awareness. Loving awareness. Loving awareness. That means not just being aware of breathing. That means loving the breathing. Letting the breath, the natural experience of breath, letting it be received with a quality of caring attention, gentle attention, welcoming attention. So that quality of welcome, of friendliness and gentleness pervades the chitta sphere, pervades your mind and body, pervades the whole field of experience. Sitting in loving awareness, sitting as loving awareness. loving awareness, tending to experience gently, tenderly, allowing the in-breath, allowing the out-breath, allowing the momentary pause between breaths. Allowing the dance of bodily sensation. Allowing the symphony of sound. Allowing the flickerings of thought. Allowing the comings and goings of experience without creating friction or resistance or judgment. To allow experience to relax into and around experience. To welcome the comings and goings of experience. This is loving awareness. Loving awareness means loving what arises, whether you like it or not. Loving awareness means this basic friendly attitude towards experience, towards what's heard, felt, imagined, conceived of. Means being tender, responsive to that which might arise which is painful. Means delighting in, gladdening the heart when met with that which is beautiful. It means that quality of spaciousness, openness of heart to all that which comes and goes. And so our practice is one of abiding as loving awareness, relaxing tensions, dissolving resistance, opening up to the touch of this moment, to the fluidity of all experience, to the mystery of being here. Loving awareness means allowing awareness to embrace experience, allowing experience to be received in the embrace of awareness. Loving awareness means the field of experience permeated by gentleness, openness, forgiveness. Loving awareness means gently putting down drama and tension and blame. Means letting go of resistance and agitation. It means softening into being here. May your heart and your life be suffused with loving awareness. May we all know a free heart. May we drop the blame and drama, the resistance and agitation. May we all know a life lived with a free heart. All right, friends. That was meditation together. Time for questions, a little time for questions that you might have. I know there was a bunch of questions yesterday that I didn't manage to get to in the time that we had. So if they're still alive, feel free to put them in. Let's see how many we can respond to. Brief daily mention of dana, the engine of love, of mutual support, of caring for each other that keeps this whole show on the road. The dana means mutual care, support, generosity, offering. That sense, offering this space of meditation, offering teachings and practices, offering our practice to each other, offering the care and support that's there in the chat. And just a very real situation that amidst all of the tech and the time and the complexity that goes into making Sangha Live work and continue to work is the blessing of your support. And it is a blessing, and sometimes it's a somewhat precarious blessing, for the many thousands of euros of overheads that are there to keep Sangha Life functioning as an organism, as a company, as an entity that can support all this. So, here's the opportunity, here's the reminder, and whatever ways you and whatever amount you may feel able to offer as dana, just thank you, thank you. Even if it feels like it's a very modest amount to you, actually that's what the dana is at Sangha Life. It's a lot of modest amounts, a lot of modest people offering modest amounts, and to this kind of modest effort to care for each other and maintain and nourish and really help thrive a space of practice, of wisdom, of loving awareness together. Yeah. So thank you. And George has kindly, like every day, just right at the right moment, dropped in the link. All right. James says, I have dread and anxiety about work. It's been going on for some years. Helpful to sit with it these last 2 mornings. The feelings are fear, uncertainty, overwhelm. The story says I can't cope, there's something wrong with me. I can see it's helpful to separate from the story, but how do I work with it? How do I discern whether I need to keep learning to sit with these feelings or I need to change my situation? Yes. And isn't part of being human needing to understand our feelings through meaning making and story? Yeah, I would say it is, James, to some extent. But it's like the question is whether the story we're telling ourselves, is it true, firstly, or is it distorted and overlaid by our own emotional complexity and by our own past conditioning? Is the story I'm telling myself true? And that's what it sounds like. That's what you're trying to discern. Is it true? I can't cope. This is too much. I need to get out of here. Or is it just a kind of emotional drama that can be put down and that actually it's not true that you can't cope, etc., etc. So that's the first thing: is the story true? And the second one: is it helpful? Is it helpful to go through down this road of story and meaning making? So let's see. Partly it's a discernment. I don't know anything about the situation or about your work. So some of the questions might be: does your work sufficiently reflect your own values, we might say, sufficiently reflect what you really care about in life? So it's worth exploring. Because if it does, that's helpful to lean into. Oh yeah, I'm doing something that I believe in. I'm doing something that's good. It's good for me. It's good for others, and I'm good at it. Maybe you can really, and if that's true, you really let yourself sort of drink in the goodness of that. Another thing to explore is the environment at work, the pressures put on you, for example, by colleagues or superiors or whatever, and the atmosphere at work, the way people communicate, is it a healthy one or not? Well, maybe doing good work in the world, maybe, but if you're in an environment where sort of a toxic work environment, we might say, where people are undermining each other, criticizing each other, gossiping about each other, it's like, oh, that is eroding of confidence, eroding of goodwill, etc. And so then also just to reflect, I would say those are probably the two most important things. Does your work reflect your values? And is the atmosphere and the situation at work supportive or undermining? Right. And then there's the other bit, the bit you most mention, right? The uncertainty, fear, I can't cope, and there's something wrong with me. What seems to be the support for those feelings? Internal? Are those familiar? Do you find yourself getting into that situation in other places as well in your life, in social situations or whatever? Or is that getting reflected back to you from the situation? I can't say much about, because I don't know your situation, right? I don't know like how much of an option it is for you to change your situation, to move jobs, etc. Have you moved jobs before? Right? Sort of like moving relationships. Very easily we find it's more about my patterning and my conditioning, that I move relationships and then initially, oh, it's great, I've got rid of the problems of the last relationship, but after a while we find the same patterns, right? As if all relationships are actually one. It might be the same with jobs as well. So those are just a little some reflections that are helpful. And in terms of the needing to understand your feelings through meaning making and story, like I say, is the story true? Is the story helpful? Right? What are you doing when you're doing your meaning making? When you're telling yourself a story of your work and your situation and your capacity, what's the inner felt sense like? Is there a lot of tension? And if so, what's it like just to care for the tension, loving awareness, like we've been doing today? See if you can soften just a little. See if you can connect with something that makes you feel, oh yeah, it's good to be here. It's okay to be here. Something that connects you with a sense of okayness. And then how does the situation look to you then? How does your work look to you then? How do you feel about your engagement with work then? So you get to see a little bit what's the story like when you soften the overlay of overwhelm, fear, uncertainty, etc. And then you might be able to discern how much of it is a kind of becoming more spacious, gentle, accepting, etc., of the situation, and how much of it might be, oh, I got to get out of here. To the extent that seems possible, because you talk about that as a possibility to change your situation. All right. Lean says, it felt nice and soft to meet experience so tenderly. Yes. Here's a question from yesterday. Mind doesn't have any edges nor boundaries. Yes. I have the impression that physical objects aren't really physical. Yes. And they don't seem to have a real location, even though they seem to have. Yes. Objects sometimes disappear by looking at them. A bit like continuing to look at a star after it dissolves. Yes. Yeah. It's true. So, I have the impression that objects aren't really physical. So I would say yes, Lean, the impression, right? You want to just be careful of not going into one extreme or the other. One extreme is things are real. Objects are objects. Right? And that we were exploring that yesterday when we talked about mind objects and arisings and passings. So one extreme, which is the extreme of the world, you might say, is objects are real, and we take them as real. And when we take them as real, we contract our attention around them, and we sort of lose all the component parts. Like this is, this bell stick. You say, oh, it's a bell stick. Yeah, but it's like if you look into it, you can see the tree from which it came, and then you can see the sunshine and the rain that were the conditions for the tree to grow. And then this has got leather around it. Leather. It came from a living creature. And then you can see the living creature. You can see the grass the creature ate. And you can see, it's like, oh, and you keep looking in a way, you see everything. So you don't want to isolate an object as just being an object. But you also don't want to dismiss the object. Oh, it's not real. It's not here. So I think we quoted Leonard Cohen the other day. It's real, but it ain't exactly there. Or it's there, but it ain't exactly real. And so often what's helpful is this sense of as if. We can certainly have a perception where we say, oh, physical objects aren't real in the way that we usually take them to be. So not fixating them as real, not dismissing them as unreal. But what we can recognize is physical objects behave as if they're real. So we interact with all of that as if it's real. As if it's real, but maintaining some sense of, no, there's something more fluid, more nebulous than all of that. We can treat things as if they're real. We can show up as if we're real. We can listen to others as if they're real. And we can also hold them with that sense of something more free and fluid. Some sense that if we keep attending to that which seems as if it's real, its edges can soften. There can be a sense of a dissolution, right? So that we can see the object, we behave with it as if it's real, and we also hold it with a tender gaze, a spacious gaze, and it dissolves, not that it disappears as in vanishes from view, but it ceases to be so discrete because we see it's part of a whole. Look at your computer screen now. This bell stick, it's inseparable from this and this and this. It's all part of one whole screen, right? And so when we fixate on an object, we separate it out and we lose everything else. But when we deny the existence of the object, then we lose this. So how can we not lose any of it? How can we be a kind of responsive to that which appears as if it's real, right? Without fixating on it and losing everything else. And sometimes I think contemplating the visual field is helpful like that, right? Here's a so-called object, and yet here's its complete integration in the whole context around it. And that's the same with all objects, so-called material objects and immaterial objects. Here's a thought. We fixate on the thought, but actually the thought is within the context of the whole chittasphere, the whole mindscape in which the thought has arisen. Okay. Jill says, a loving heart hurts. How to live with it? Well, it only hurts sometimes. A loving heart hurts when in contact with that which is painful. Yeah. So there's two different kinds of ways a loving heart hurts. One is when it hurts when it's overwhelmed with emotional backlog. It hurts because it's filled up with stuff that we haven't really attended to or resolved or taken care of, right? Or it hurts because we're kind of flooding it with drama and the sense of, oh, what's happening and why it's happening, etc., etc. All that is exhausting. You know, that's a heart that hurts, and we kind of keep adding to the hurt through the drama and the intensity, etc., etc. And then there's the heart that hurts, which is called compassion, right? Just the open heart, the free heart. When confronted with that which is painful, it hurts. But we recognize there's something right. It should hurt. We should be hurt. We should be pained by the contact with the painful. You know, that's where the care is. That's where the responsiveness is. That's where the compassion is. And yet we also recognize that hurt, there's something kind of right about it, something deep about it, something kind of like just authentic about it. We don't need to resist that. Right? And when the conditions change, and then there's something beautiful, just might be just the sunlight on the skin, and the heart delights. But that spaciousness of heart, right, is about the capacity and the willingness to let the heart respond to that which needs compassion. In other words, then the heart hurts in that. Let the heart respond to that which is beautiful, the light of heart. So in answer to that second part, how to live with it, by relaxing. Relax your heart. And then you find the heart actually can tolerate. It's okay for the heart to hurt, because it's not just me and my heart. That when we think, this is all I've got, this is my heart, then we easily feel overwhelmed and flooded by that which is painful or difficult, whether it's our own situation, something that's painful, whether it's the pain of the world, whether it's the pain of somebody we love. We relax the heart, we realize the heart's vast, boundless, Brahma Vihara, boundless abiding. And then it's okay. Don't want it to hurt, but it's okay. So I would say part of the training of Dharma practice is. It's getting used to the fact that it's natural, it's proper. Proper's a funny word. It's like it's okay for the heart to be confronted by that which is painful, and for it to hurt in response. That's where the love, that's where compassion comes from. Yeah. All right, friend. I see that there's a couple more questions, but they'll have to be for tomorrow, I think. Take good care of your heart and go through the day with loving awareness, whether that's delighting in the beautiful, or whether it's tending to the painful, or whether it's just opening to the movement of everything. Thank you. See you tomorrow.